Hey, so welcome to this video. I wanted to make a video for people starting out drafting. So this video will be for people who've maybe played Magic a couple times. You know, they've played with it. They know how the cards work. Maybe it might have been a while, but they've never drafted. So it's going to be pretty beginner friendly. So yeah, let's just get started. Um, so this is a draft. Um, so the way a draft works is there's 8 people at a table. Oh, it's not going to show me. Um, there's 8 people sitting down, and we all open packs. So this is the pack of cards that I have opened. It's 14 cards, and I'm going to take one card here, and then I'm going to pass the remaining 13 cards to my left. You can see the arrows. That's the direction I'm passing. And then the person to my right who's drafted a card will then pass their 13 cards to me. So after I pick this, I will get 13 more cards. And I'll have to pick from among those, and then I will pass the 12 to the left. And they will keep going around the table until every card has been taken from every pack. So at the end of the packs being passed around, I will have 14 cards because I will have taken one from every pack that keeps getting passed to me. And then we'll do it again for packs 2 and packs 3 for a total of 42 cards that I will have picked in this process. So there's a couple things about that are worth noting, but I guess first of all, I'll just go over some basics of Magic cards. So um, at the top right of every Magic card is just a reminder, is the mana cost. So the color indicates that you need to pay that color mana, so in this case white, and then the number next to it indicates that you need to pay one of any color of mana. So again, like this card, which is a little more complicated, you need to pay 1 white, 1 red, and then 2 of any color mana. So it could be red, could be white, could be black, could be green. For creatures, they then have at the bottom right the text box with maybe I'll pick one that doesn't have extra stuff, with power and toughness. So this one has 4 power and 3 toughness. So power is how much damage it will do when it attacks either another creature or a person. And toughness is how much damage it can take before dying. So with 3 toughness, this needs to be dealt 3 damage somehow to die. So there are creatures which have power and toughness. Then there are instants and sorceries. So an instant, these do something. They don't actually have a creature that comes. I mean, sometimes they create creatures, but they do something. An instant can be played anytime. A sorcery can only be played during your turn, like basically during your turn. And then, yeah, lands. I mean, hopefully you remember lands. So when drafting, you're gonna see this and you're gonna go. I mean, if this is the first time drafting, you're gonna go, "This is so much. Like, where do I even begin?" And so, there's a couple things that I can tell you to help with your first draft. So first of all, you should look at the rarity of the cards. So every pack consists of common cards, uncommon cards, and rare cards. So the common, the rarity of the card can be indicated on the far right of the card. So, like right, it's hard for me to cursor it, but if you see on like this card right here on the right, there's that little star symbol. That's black. If the symbol's in black, that means it's a common. If the symbol's in silver, like there, that means it's an uncommon. And if the symbol is gold or orange gold, that means it's rare. And orange gold actually means mythic rare, but rare, there's only going to be one usually, maybe 2 in every pack of rares. So the first thing you want to do is usually look at the rarer cards. Usually rarer cards are better. Now, not always, and we'll get to that because this actually is not a good card. So that's one way to look at it, is commons, uncommons, and rares. And then the other thing is there's this acronym people like to use for how to draft if you've never done it, called BREAD. So like BREAD. The idea is you follow the letters in order. So B stands for bombs. So you're going to look for bombs. Well, I'll get to what bombs are in a second. If there are no bombs, then you go to R, which is removal, so killing creatures. You look for removal. If there's no removal, then E, and so on and so forth. So sorry, I'll just get to it. E stands for evasion. So if there's something that can, deal damage in a way, it can not be blocked. So flying, for example, flying can only be blocked by other creatures with flying, or that designate that it can be blocked by flying. So that's a good thing. Death touch, any creature that blocks it will be dealt. That any creature that is dealt damage by it is destroyed. That makes it tougher to block. So E would be next. If there's no bombs, no removal, look for E. A stands for aggressive. So what that basically just means is if you're deciding between two cards, go for the cheaper card. In general, when you draft your limited deck, when you have your deck, you're gonna want a bell curve of creatures. Or a bell curve of cards. You're gonna want a certain amount of cheap cards, and then as it gets more and more expensive, you're gonna want less and less of them. So like this creature right here, this is 6 mana, so 3 colorless and then 3 green for a 12/8. 12/8 is huge, but you can't play that many of these because if you have all big creatures, you're not gonna be able to play anything early, and you're just gonna die quickly. Whereas if you have a lot of small creatures, like the downside of that is you might not have big creatures to affect the game later on. But the thing is, one, if they only have big creatures, you'll kill them with small creatures before they can do it. So it's better to at least have small creatures so you can survive early. And two, you don't need that many big creatures, so you'll get plenty of opportunities to get those. And then D stands for dregs. The idea is like bad cards, the dregs of the pack. So without further ado, let's take a look. So first of all, we're looking for bombs. So the idea of a bomb is it's a crazy card that just like would take over the game. The idea being like it's a bomb. If your opponent doesn't deal with it, it blows up and kills them. So the idea is any card that can single-handedly take over the game. It's not the easiest thing to that can be a very broad range, but looking at this, I'll let you know, just none of these cards are bombs. This card is a crazy good card. So it's a 10/10, and it has protection from everything, which just means like nothing can target it or deal damage to it. It's very strong if you played it. The problem is it costs 2 of every single color. So that's unrealistic. It's 10 mana, and you need to play every color, which you wouldn't do. So with no bombs, is there removal? And the answer is yes, there is removal. So this card is removal. And when you're looking at removal, you're looking for, if you're comparing removal, you want removal that's the most unconditional possible. So for example, make your move says destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with power 4 or greater. Now, that can target some things, but like for example, small creatures, it will not be able to target. So this is decent, but you could probably do better. This is sort of removal. So not all removal necessarily says destroy. This actually just puts the creature on top of their deck. So it does get rid of it, but not forever. This card is actually interesting. So this is a creature, but when it enters the battlefield, it gives a creature an opponent controls -1/-1. So if the creature's a 1/1, for example, it would die. So that is removal in that sense. And in addition, if a creature has already died this turn from like fighting each other or whatever, then it gives the creature -13/-13. So that's really powerful. I mean, that would kill almost every single creature. So this is not only removal, it's removal. So it's not quite unconditional, but it's good. And it's attached to a creature. So you get the benefit of also having a creature in play. So this is a really good card. And this is by the bread acronym, we would definitely want this. So notice how by just breaking it down and looking at uncommons and rares and looking at the bread acronym, we were able to, scope through all these cards and just break it down to a few that we were looking at. So let's take this and we'll keep going. Okay, so now, so again, notice these are 13 new cards. The person has drafted to us. So one thing you're going to want to know is when you draft a deck, you're going to want to draft a 2-color deck. So You want to be, you know, you could be black and green, blue and black, white and red, whatever the case is. Um, to be more colors than that, it you run into the problem if you're not going to draw the right lands to play. Like if you need to have green, black, and red, it's very unlikely you're going to have all those right away, and so you're going to have cards stuck in your hand. And just people have done the math; it's not a good idea. So at least barring, you could put in some energy and effort to play more than two colors, but for beginners, you should play two colors. So that will be the other thing that will be affecting our draft here, beyond just bread and trying to fill out a good deck. We'll want to stay two colors. So right here, there's actually only one black card. So, and this card, it looks okay. It can fly. It's a 3/2, can fly, but it can't block. It's got some effects, but let's go through our acronym still. We're not for sure black. Like this is just one black card we took. So are there any bombs here? Well, there's not going to be any bombs in common. Let's look at the uncommons. This is not a bomb. It's a cheap creature. This is not a bomb. It's just small. I can show what a bomb looks like later, but you're not really going to get bombs very often late. They're almost always going to be rare. So now let's see if there's any good removal. So this card does 5 mana, does 6 damage. So it's 5 mana, which is a lot, which is expensive, but it is fairly unconditional. Like 6 damage is gonna kill most creatures. So this is decent. Bushwhack lets you fight. That's okay. So this card, this is another creature that can also be sort of removal. So 6 mana, it's expensive, but it's a 4/4. And when the creature enters, it fights a target creature. So what that sort of means is it says here what fight does. When two creatures fight, each deals non-combat damage equal to its power to each other. So for example, if you play this and your opponent has like Battle Song Berserker, they would fight each other and you would be able to kill this creature. So this is good removal. It's another expensive card, but overall, like this is pretty good removal, and it's an uncommon. Again, if you're judging between like the same kind of card but a common versus uncommon, in general the uncommon is better. So let's take that. All right, here. So again, looking. So this is a good removal. See, this is white, and it does 3 damage to target attacking or blocking creature, and you gain a life. So 3 damage is not a ton, but it's a good amount. And remember, this is only 1 mana. So a cheap card like that, you know, is going to be less powerful, but to do 3 damage, which is still enough to kill a lot of creatures, and to only cost 1 mana is pretty good. Now the creature has to be attacking or blocking, so you can't just use it on a generic creature, but I think that's like, you'd have to know this from experience, but this would be good. Again, like there's some other stuff. I don't see anything else that's like good removal specifically. We will not be playing almost certainly white, green, and black, but that's okay. We have plenty of time. Remember, in order to have a deck, your deck has to have 40 cards, but 17 of those cards are lands. So you need 23 cards, and we're going to draft 42. So you have plenty of time to pick colors and take cards that you can speculate on the colors. We do not have to be green-black just because our first 2 cards were green-black. Okay. Now let's keep looking. Okay, so I actually do not see any creature or any removal here. Actually, the rare is still in the pack. This is a bad rare. That's why it's here. A lot of times rares are either really good or really bad. And they're really bad because they're made for people that are not playing draft. So now let's look at evasion. Are there any good flying or creatures that have ways to be evasive? So this card, it's 5 mana for a 1/1, but when it enters, it creates a 4/4 flying dragon. So this is great evasion. 1 mana, 1/1. It's 5 mana for a 4/4 flyer, and it has a 1/1 essentially attached to it. So this is great evasion. Other than that, I don't see a ton here. These are all just ground creatures. This doesn't really do much. So, I mean, I know we're taking 4 different colors, but it's early. It's fine. Like we have plenty of time. Okay. Now, let's look at this again. Is there any removal here? I don't see any. I guess there's this, although I guess there's a question of do we want to play removal that's this level of like it doesn't remove the creature, it doesn't kill the creature, just puts it on their deck so they're gonna draw it later? The answer is maybe. Beyond that, if we look at like evasion, we have like 2 flying creatures here. 4 mana 3/3 and 2 mana 1/2. Okay, so I think given that, why don't we just take the removal here? And so now we've taken a card of every single color. So something that happens in draft is people are going to take cards and they're all going to settle into decks as well. So like people next to you are going to be, green red or blue black or something like that. And as that happens, you're going to be able to tell because when they pass you cards, there's going to be noticeably less of those cards in your deck. Or in your piles. Like if someone's black, you're not going to be getting past very many black cards because they're going to be taking them all. And so the idea is to like try and figure out what your people next to you are drafting so you can draft other colors. And if you do that, you'll be rewarded by getting past powerful cards late in the draft. So here we have this red removal spell. It's very expensive. Other than that, I don't see any flyers. Noticeably, green has been pretty weak. Like I see 1 green card, and it's a pretty bad green card. So, my tendency is to think that we're probably not going to be green, and that someone next to us is green. We could either take this like expensive removal spell, or we could go for a cheap spell. So this is a very cheap spell. 1 mana. It doesn't do a lot, but it does draw a card, so it will replace itself, which is useful. I think we either could take that or we could take like one of these cheap creatures. My indication is to take the cheap blue spell. Let's keep going. All right, so notice we're starting to get some more signals here. There's no green here. There's no white here. So this is a good sign. So we can probably, I'll leave them in here for now, but you can like move them. We're probably not going to be green or white. Again, there's no removal and there's no bombs. There's this cheap creature that's solid, 2 mana 2/2, and you can sacrifice other creatures. There's also this counter spell. So counter spells are kind of removal. They remove whatever the opponent is playing, but you have to play it as they're playing it. It's hard to explain, but basically, when you play something, you're casting a spell. Even a creature, it counts as casting a spell. And if you play this right after they do that, it will block that spell. But if they've played it and it's become a creature, it's already happened, you can't like retroactively counter it. So I think this is pretty good. I'm just speaking like this not only counters the spell, but lets you draw a card and then discard a card. So that's pretty good. You could totally argue for taking one of these cheap creatures as well. This also, by the way, this is a 3 mana spell, but it can create 2 1/1s, so that's reasonable as well. I think any 4 of these cards is reasonable given this position. Also, I have noticed that we've gotten some blue cards lately. Like, remember, later in the packs, you're starting to get past stuff. Like, so it's because we've gotten blue late. That means people have been passing us blue, so I think blue is most likely to be open. So I'm drawn towards blue more than other colors. Okay, so again, no removal at this point. Removal usually goes pretty fast. I don't see any evasive creatures. So at this point, I'm leaning towards blue, so I'm gonna give a little bit of a bias towards blue cards. So this card is 4 mana for a 3/4, but it can get bigger with prowess, which is where you play. If you play non-creatures like instants or sorceries, it'll get bigger for a turn. And when it enters the battlefield, you get to look at the top 2 cards of your library or your deck, and you can put them in the graveyard if you want, or leave them on top. So I like this is decently strong, and it is blue, which I think I want to be at this point. So I'm biased towards taking this. If I was totally open and didn't care what colors, this is a good cheap card. 1 mana, 1/1, and it can die and create another 1/1. So I would probably take this. But I'm gonna bias my pick a little bit and take this blue card. Again, the blue keeps flowing. So I have noticed I'm getting some more green now, but I think given this, I'm totally fine taking this blue card. It's 4 mana for a 1/1, but when you draw a card, it gets bigger. So I could see playing this. I think this is totally fine. This is 3 mana for a 2/3. Doesn't fly, and when you draw your second card each turn, you can make it bigger. There's arguments for both, but I think this one's probably better, so let's take that. All right, so here we could take this big removal spell. This card is removal, but it's expensive and a little difficult. It's so expensive, and it's a sorcery, so you only cast it on your turn, so it's not quite as good. But given what else we have, I'm fine taking that, I think. Okay. So, given this, I think probably just fine taking blue again. We could take red, but... Or this red spell, but I think the blue spell is fine. It draws cards. Alright, cheap blue creature. It's a 2 mana, 2/1. Not a good rate. Like, 2 for... You want usually a 2/2. But at this point, there's only 3 cards left, so I think we're fine taking the blue card. This is a counter spell, but it gives your opponent a lot of stuff, so I'm just gonna take this green card instead. This is all. It doesn't really matter, and this is a land, so I don't really care. Okay, so again, we've opened a brand new pack. It's all new stuff. So looking at it, do we have any bombs? So is this a bomb? This is a 6 mana 5/5 flyer. And then it says you have no maximum hand size, and whenever you deal non-combat... This is like a lot of not useful text. It's 6 mana for a 5/5 flyer. That's solid. I wouldn't call this a bomb. Like, if you play it and your opponent doesn't deal with it, you will start attacking them for 5, but it's not game over. Okay, so given that, is there any good removal here? There's this, although we're probably not white, because there just wasn't any white. And there's another counter spell. So I think that's probably not worth taking. I'm just fine staying in blue. Nothing's indicated to me that I don't want to be blue. So I think I'm fine taking this counter spell here. And we'll wait and let the second color come to us. Okay, so here, is this a bomb? It's very strong, 2 mana to give all creatures permanently +1/+1 enchantments stay on the battlefield. But the colors were not. At this point, we're almost certainly blue, so we can only be 2 colors, so we can't be green and white. There's actually some good removal here. This is a good white removal spell. It's 5 mana to destroy a creature, or if it's tapped, it's only 2 mana. And these 2 red removal spells, this one deals 2 damage, or you can pay extra mana and make it deal 4, and this deals 5 damage to a creature. So these are very strong removal spells. So I think we're totally fine taking this. And I actually, now that we've taken more and more cards, I've noticed we've taken some good red cards. So I'm gonna remove the white and the black, because I'm almost certain we're not that. We could be green, but I am leaning towards red. So now I'm gonna look and basically go like, okay, is there any good blue cards? Well, this card, it doesn't remove a creature, but it does return it to its owner's hand. So it does at least like cause a slight inconvenience. In addition, in red, I see this card. This is a cheap creature. Now that we've kind of started to, like, I'll move these to the side. This is our curve. So these are the 1 mana cards, 2 mana cards, 3, 4, 5, and then these are higher. I'm just going to remove the green for now. So I noticed we have nothing cheap. So I would at least keep an eye on this as something that I could play that's cheap. Having said that, I think I'm okay playing the Big Fin Bouncer. Okay, so now I can talk about lands. So at the end of the draft, you're gonna have to put lands in your deck. So you're gonna put, since you are 2 colors, you'll probably put 9 of one color and 8 of another. That's okay, but you still will definitely have games where you don't draw the right lands. So lands like this, which are called dual lands, can help. So this can tap for blue or red, and it also gains you a life when it enters. So if you don't see anything that you really love, like if there was Fire Annihilation in this pack, I would say take that for sure. But given that there's not anything crazy good here, like I don't see any good removal, I don't see any good flying or evasive creatures, I'm going to take this land. And now I'm really starting to lock in on being blue-red at this point. And I'm definitely seeing a lot of blue-red. I have a lot of good, if I can't even give up blue. I just have too many blue cards. And red, I would be sad to give up some of these cards. Okay, so here, again, I'm looking at my curve, and I would like to have some cheaper stuff. So this is an okay removal spell, but I'm looking to play a cheap creature. So these are all 2 mana creatures. So looking at my deck, I think I'm leaning towards taking this. I have a lot. This says it's 2 mana for a 2/1, and you can play it at any time because that's flash, so you don't have to play it during your turn. And whenever you place something on your opponent's turn, you get to make this bigger. And I'm noticing that I have a lot of instants. Like if you look, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then that can be played on opponent's turn, so 7. So I'm thinking that's probably the right pick here. Okay, this is a flyer, but we already have one. I have a lot of 4 mana cards already. This card is an instant. It lets you draw a card. This is not it's not unbelievable, but I'm fine taking it. Like, it's cheap, and I need more cheap things, and drawing cards is always good. All right. 2 cards here. I like. Probably take the cheaper one here, and also like this is more permanent removal, but this gives a creature and it's cheaper, so I'm gonna take that. Here, big removal spell. Again, we have a lot of like really expensive removal gets a discount or gets not as useful, whereas this is a big creature that I'm good with. I think this is like a big flyer. This could, they have to answer this. They're gonna have to deal with that, or they're gonna lose. Again, this is just not good. It's too expensive. I'll play that. Okay, another fleeting distraction. Thrill of Possibility seems nice. I can discard a card and then draw. I'll take fleeting distraction. Sure, I'll just take this. I'm gonna start going a little bit faster just because I wanna get farther in. So these are, and later on the picks aren't as important. So I'm just trying to take blue and red cards. Okay, so here we actually unfortunately don't see a lot. Again, this removal spell, but this you can just tell by how many are coming that I just don't think this is that valuable. So now if I'm looking for evasive cards, this is a flyer, but again, it's 4 mana for a 1/1, and it can get bigger, but I wouldn't love this. This card's okay. It's 3 mana for a 2/1 flyer. It's not the great rate, but it makes all my instants and sorceries cheaper, and I do have a reasonable amount of those, so I think I'm okay taking that card. All right, here. So this card, when you draw your second card each turn, create a token that's a copy of this creature. So if you draw your second card each turn, this will create another one of these. So then if you have two of them and you draw, if you wait till your next turn and draw another, you draw a second card again, this would then create four because each one would create a copy. So this is pretty good, especially because if you look at ways I have to draw multiple cards in a turn, these all three of these draw a card, this draws a card, these two draw a card. I think that's it, but that's pretty good. So I think I could definitely work with this. I would call this like a build around really more than anything. Um, but we actually do have ways to build around it here. Okay, so here I'm seeing this is like maybe a good removal spell. So I'll take that. Okay, so this is another removal, but now I'm sort of looking for anything that can make the deck better. So this Tolarian Terror, this is a big creature. It costs one less to cast though for every instant and sorcery I've cast, and I have quite a few of those. So I have 11 instants and sorceries. So I think this is pretty good, and it'll get pretty cheap in this deck. Here, another fleeting distraction. I think that's fine considering we want to draw cards for this and we want to make this cheaper. Sure, I'll take another big fin bouncer. Another refute is fine. I don't think anything here I'm going to want to play, so I'll just go fasty. Unless I see something that really jumps out to me. Okay, so now that we've we've drafted the deck, we can build it and play. So in Arena it automatically adds the lands for you. In person you'll have to add them yourself. But notice here that we have 46 cards instead of 40. So we're going to need to cut 6 non-lands to get down to 40. So first thing I'm going to look at is I have a lot of 4-mana things. So I'm going to want to cut some of these. This card is good in our deck, so I don't want to cut that. I like this. I like this. This is a really bad rate. This is 4 mana for a 1/1, and though it gets bigger, I think I'm just going to cut that one. I also don't know if we need 2 of these Incinerating Blasts, so I'm fine with cutting that. This card doesn't seem very useful. Maybe that isn't very good. We cut one of those. And maybe a flyer. I mean, this is going to be tough to determine, but yeah. So that's how we got there. I'll play through the games now, and I'll even talk it through, but that's hopefully that will help you with your first draft. So, beating opponents, I guess it's going to take a little bit. Yeah, so again, the idea was like to see what the opponents were passing and take that information in. And this looks pretty good. So I can play this and then start holding wrong color land. Ideally, if I can draw a blue land, I could play this and then I can have a counter spell ready should anything happen. Wrong color, but it happens. I can still play this. So if my opponent attacks here, oh, they have a card. Okay. Well, let's see if I can maybe draw something. I drew the color I need now. Well, unfortunate. This card is really nice in that it makes it every time they attack, it just creates a 1/1. So I'm gonna bounce that. Okay, they killed my thing in response. So they're gonna attack. So they could just play this and it would create another goblin. Yeah, okay, that's what they did. Alright, so right now I'm hoping, I mean, they're gonna attack. Hopefully they play something. Okay, so we're gonna counter that. And then we'll discard one of these fleeting distractions. And we'll play the Tolarian Terror. Big creature. And it's hard to deal with. It has Ward 2. It means anything that targets requires two more mana to cast. Okay, that's big. We can get this back, I suppose. Alright, so I'm just going to do this just to make it so I take slightly less damage and draw some cards. Alright, Incinerating Blast. I think I'm down to just kill that. And we'll discard this fleeting distraction. So, unfortunately, my opponent can attack every single time. So even though I'm killing this, like, they just play another creature. Or they're just going to get another one. This is a good draw.